Hey, everybody, Dr. Michael Breus, the sleep doctor here. I'm really excited to get the opportunity to talk to you today about lifestyle medicine for the brain, specifically about sleep and what it does. Remember, sleep is a big deal. Lots of people don't think about it until kind of the end of the day. It turns out that sleep affects every organ system, every disease state. Literally everything you do better with a good night's rest. So I'm here to talk you through some of the science, give you a few practical tips, and get you interested in our program, Lifestyle Medicine for the Brain. There's a lot of different components to it, not just sleep, and I'm going to highlight some of those in just a moment. So first, I'm going to go through a quick introduction of myself, explain to you all of the pillars of brain health. Then we're going to go through what is sleep, why do we need it, how sleep helps the brain and the body, how sleep enhances brain health, how sleep reduces risk of and prevents brain illnesses like Alzheimer's and dementia, and then what you can do today to increase sleep outcomes. And then I'm going to introduce you to the next steps of the program. So I hope you're ready. Put on your seatbelt because here we go. Give you a little bit of background on who I am and why do I even get a chance to talk to you here. My name is Dr. Michael Breus, and I'm known as the Sleep Doctor. I have a PhD in clinical psychology from the University of Georgia, and I'm double board certified in clinical psychology as well as clinical sleep disorders. I am one of the 168 people in the world that have taken the medical boards without going to medical school and passed. I'm a fellow of the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, and I've published 4 books on the topic of sleep, with my most recent one you can see here called Energize, How to Go from Dragging It to Kicking It in 30 Days. We're going to use some of those concepts here for everybody, so don't you worry, you're going to get a lot of great information. I've been in practice for about 23 years, living in Southern California, and I'm a member of the Brain Health Institute faculty. Now, here are the pillars of brain health. Now, I want to be clear about something. There are a bunch of these. So there will be several different kind of courses that are out there that you're going to be learning from. But there are multiple brain protective factors. So I wanted to get into that idea real quick that are going to be unpacked during our Lifestyle Medicine for the Brain continuing education series. Sleep is just one factor. You can see it down there on the right-hand side. That can be protective or can actually help reduce risk depending upon the quantity or the quality of your client's sleep experience. There's no one protective factor that can be improved in isolation to enhance brain health. We kind of all know that. We want to optimize brain performance. We want to reduce the risk, of course, of brain illness across the lifespan, but you can't just do one thing. So we have identified all of these areas. Don't worry, we're bringing in the experts to give you the hot tips to know exactly what to do. Remember, protective factors must be scanned and supported holistically and adopted by the brain's lifestyle. The faculty of the Brain Health Initiative Lifestyle Medicine for the Brain program are global leaders in their field, and it is my privilege, my honor to be part of this amazing course and, of course, to help everyone out there get a better night's sleep. I hope you guys are ready to dig in because here we go. So what is sleep, right? Turns out it's based on 2 separate processes in the brain. One is called your sleep drive. The other is called your sleep rhythm. Drive is a lot like hunger, right? I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. I eat something and that hunger begins to dissipate. The same holds true with sleep. Over the course of the day, we get sleepier and sleepier and sleepier. And then eventually when we fall asleep, that sleep drive begins to dissipate. But that's only one thing that helps us with sleep. The second factor is called our sleep rhythm or our circadian rhythm. Also a lot like hunger. Notice that you get hungry around breakfast time, around lunchtime, and around dinner time. That is your body's internal biological clock that is teaching you when to go to bed. Now, what's interesting is most people, at least here in North America, have a tendency to go to bed somewhere between 10 and 11 o'clock at night. So when your drive is high and your sleep rhythm is good, you sleep. But if either one of these is off, that's when we have either what we call a sleep disorder or what I call disordered sleep. Now, let's break down what the sleep stages are. I know you haven't thought about this since high school biology probably, but it turns out that these stages are important to have just a little bit of information on. So as you can see here on the graph on the left, this represents an entire evening's worth of sleep. So the orange represents being awake. The light gray is light sleep. Then we go down into deep sleep, represented by the deep blue, back to light gray, and then on into light blue for REM sleep. That little dance maneuver I just walked you through actually has to happen in close to that order. A couple of things you should notice about this slide. Number one, deep sleep, which again is represented by the dark blue, seems to be front loaded. That's important because we know that deep sleep, and we're going to talk about this more, is your physical restoration. That has to happen early on. This is, by the way, one of the reasons why caffeine and alcohol affect your sleep so much, because they're still on board sometimes and affecting your deep sleep. The other thing you'll notice is REM sleep, which is again represented by the light blue. That's actually spread out more across the night, with the preponderance of REM sleep happening in the last third of the evening. Now, when we start to look at all of these different stages, what we really need to understand is, what do they do? We could go into super duper detail, but to be fair, you only need to know what the top two do. So stages 3 and 4, again, what we call deep sleep. This is your wake up and feel great sleep, right? This is where your physical restoration comes in, blood pressure drops, respiration slows, and something called growth hormone is emitted. I want to stop here for just a second and talk about growth hormone for just a minute. Remember, growth hormone is the thing that is kind of like bringing the car into the body shop and taking out the dinks and the scratches and the dents. But also, growth hormone is responsible for your immune function. Right about now, we're all interested in having great immune function. So getting your deep sleep is definitely going to help that. REM sleep, which represents approximately 25% of the night, this is your mental restoration. The data would now suggest that we have learned that this is the stage of sleep where we're moving information from our short-term memory to our long-term memory, kind of creating an organizational substructure inside your head, a little bit like a filing cabinet. So when data is coming in all day long in your eyes and your ears and your mouth and your nose, and you want to remember something, your brain has got to take that piece of information, find the right filing cabinet, the right file drawer, and the right file to put it into. Got to be honest with you. Sometimes we don't get it so right. There's a tremendous amount of information that's coming in. So what ends up happening is sometimes a piece of information kind of gets mismanaged and it's got a weird association. The process of moving that information from short-term to long-term, we think that's what we call dreaming right about now. So what's fascinating is when you look across the evening and you look across a dream, there's a whole host of things that could be going on. Now, REM sleep is not just for memorial production or to help people with their memory. That's an important factor, of course, but another important factor is emotional response. So one of the things we're learning now is that when you dream, you're actually working through your emotions, and that turns out to be an incredibly important thing. A nightmare is when somebody wakes up in the middle of a scary dream and doesn't have the ability to continue and process that problem. By the way, one thing I forgot to mention in stages 3 and 4, this is also something called the glymphatic system. This is a fairly recent discovery. I call it the waste management system of the brain. It comes in and it scoops out all of these proteins that we really don't want hanging out in our brain, because when they collect, they wrap themselves around our nerves and they strangle them. That's called Alzheimer's. So we're going to get into that in just a second. But once again, you want to get as much deep sleep and REM sleep as you can. They represent each about 25% of the night. So why do we even need sleep? I mean, we've been talking a lot about, the stages and that. Here's the bottom line. Sleep helps your body and your brain recover during the day and prepare for the next day. There's no getting around it. You've got to have sleep. It repairs and regrows the cells of your body. It strengthens your immune system, like we were talking about before, repairs your muscles, kind of like that growth hormone, kind of putting your car into the body shop there. Also maintaining the brain function and the emotional well-being that we know occurs during REM sleep. And then, of course, regulating your mood, your appetite, even your libido. So when I say sleep affects every organ system in every disease state, I'm not messing around. It really does. Now, a lot of people like to know, okay, Michael, you've told us a lot about that, but can sleep affect parts of my body? Believe it or not, it can, but it's sleep deprivation that appears to have the biggest effect. So when we don't sleep, what happens to our body? Well, number one, our brain gets affected. We become irritable, cognitively impaired. Memory loss is a big thing. Of course, increased stress and lack of focus. Then it also affects our gut. Believe it or not, we can have impaired immune system based on sleep affecting our gut and what's called our microbiome. Our heart is another area, or cardiovascularly, we see sleep having an effect as well. This is due to when sleep deprivation is on board, increased heart rate and risk of heart disease. So that can be a problem as well. And then finally, muscles. We know that muscles are we see when we are sleep deprived, we see a decrease in reaction time, decreased accuracy, and more tremors. Everybody likes to see pictures of the brain, so I thought I'd throw a couple in here. And this was a fascinating one. When we do MRI studies of the brain, where we're looking at brain activity levels, so what's going on and what's not, this is two people basically lying in bed, a relaxed brain and an insomniac's brain. The blue represents the calmness of the relaxed brain. If you look at the insomniac's brain, there's barely any blue. Why is that? We feel as though a lot of the insomniacs out there have got significant issues with stress. We also know that their brains function a little bit differently. So the person on the left, the relaxed brain, could have the same stressor that the person on the right, the insomniac's brain, but yet the insomniac seems to react differently. So when we're talking about sleep, everybody's not the same. You, your partner, your clients, they can all be dramatically different in what we call a personalized view of sleep. How does sleep promote brain health? Oh my gosh, how does it not? Healthy sleep is also important for something called brain plasticity. And this is your brain's ability to create memories and adapt to everyday stimuli. When you don't get enough sleep, you could become sleep deprived, and we already know what that does to your body and to your mind. But remember, it makes it harder for you to process and learn during the day, also makes you more likely to forget things. Not getting enough sleep can also clutter your brain with a lot of information that it doesn't need. Remember, your brain knows what to keep and what to throw away when you get to sleep. If you've been watching, Netflix for 3 days, you got a lot of, dumping of information that you probably need to do. Now, how sleep reduces the risk of and prevents brain illness is a major area of study for many of the major universities. Fairly recently, scientists discovered a previously unidentified system in the brain that clears waste. Remember, I was talking about the glymphatic system before, that waste management system for the brain that kind of pulls out all those proteins. That's what we're talking about here. Interestingly enough, when we sleep, the scientists discovered that this glymphatic system becomes 10 times more active, right? So it's like somebody, when you close your eyes, somebody open up the door to your brain, goes in and is doing a good service of pulling all that junk out of there. So when you sleep, scientists now think your glymphatic system steps up its activity to remove those potentially harmful proteins, or what we call debris, that is collected over your waking day. So all kinds of different reasons that you really do want to get a better night's rest. But what can you do today to increase sleep outcomes tomorrow? Here's the good news. I've got a whole host of things here. And believe it or not, only 1 in 10 Americans consider sleep to be their top priority over other hobbies and social life. I want you to think about making sleep a priority for you. And here are some very, very easy things that anybody can do without having a whole host of stress or problems. So number 1, go to sleep and wake up at the same time every day. Honestly, if you don't get anything from this lecture today and you only pull one piece of nugget of information, that's it. Wake up at the same time every day. Notice I didn't say go to bed, because look, Friday nights and Saturday nights, if you want to go out and have some fun, I get it. But you've got to wake up the same time 7 days a week. This helps keep your circadian rhythm in line. It also keeps your melatonin in line. These are 2 massive factors for keeping you asleep and sleeping well. So I can't emphasize enough, wake up at the same time every day. If you can do it without an alarm, even better. Exercising regularly is an amazing way to improve your sleep. Try not to do it too close to bed. What you do is you heat up your body, and then it's hard to fall asleep with the hot body. If you can, avoid napping. I know that's hard to do sometimes, but if you possibly can, most people who are well slept don't need to nap. If you're going to nap, only do it once a day, and try to keep it in the 10 to 2 p.m. For about 20 or 30 minutes or less. Otherwise, it's definitely going to have a major effect on your sleep. If you can't fall asleep while you're lying in bed, it's not a bad idea after about 20 minutes or so to get up, go to another room, maybe read some scripture, something boring, something relaxing, listen to some music. And then when you feel tired, return to bed. Do yourself a favor, spend more time outside late in the day. This is good for your circadian rhythm as well as your eyes. And of course, you knew I was going to get there. Caffeine, alcohol, and tobacco are all things that have a major effect on your sleep. I'm not a teetotaler, so don't worry. You can still have a glass of wine or even two with dinner, but give yourself enough time afterwards, about an hour per beverage, and have one glass of water per beverage so that it does not affect your sleep nearly as much. Big question I get all the time, Michael, when do I want to see a sleep doctor? Well, here are the times when you see a sleep disorder could be creeping up, and that could be an issue. So if you've got times where you see your breathing is disrupted for a minute or maybe more, you're excessively tired during the day. Here's a big one. If you wake up with headaches, that's usually a sign of oxygen deprivation and can be sleep apnea. If you wake up irritable, limited attention span, chronic snoring, or gasping for air, these are all signs and symptoms of sleep disordered breathing, and you definitely want to talk with your medical professional about it. Some medical conditions that can be linked to apnea, insomnia, even sleep deprivation include things like heart failure, obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, stroke, depression, even ADD and ADHD. So if you have any one of those diagnoses on the right-hand side, you may want to talk to your doctor about how to improve the quality of your sleep, because all of those issues will improve with better sleep. So what are we going to do now? You've learned what sleep is. You've learned a little bit of science. You've even learned that it's super duper healthy for older brains, and a few tips of what to do. What I want you to do next is using a coach approach. I will be spending 40 focused minutes on ways to assess, train, monitor, and sustain brain health, fitness, and performance throughout sleep across the lifespan. You're going to love this course. Sleep is medicine for the brain. Number 2, there's also a master training course called Sleep is Medicine for the Brain, which will be coming soon around fall of 2022. So with that, I just wanted to say thank you so much for your time today. I know it's incredibly valuable. Remember, brain health matters and lifestyles make a difference. Sleep is a part of that healthy lifestyle, and I want to see you getting some sweet dreams. This is Dr. Michael Breus, the Sleep Doctor, wishing you brain healthiness. For more information, you can always find out at brainhealthinitiative.org or contact the admin at brainhealthinitiative.org. Thanks, guys. Take care and sleep well.